It's game time. We diving deep. From the stairs to the plays. No time for sleep. Below the surface, we're working, we set the scene. Who's your host? Scott Levine. Below the surface.
Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Below the Surface. I'm Scott, your host, and I've got to say, I am so happy to finally getting this started. Whether you guys been playing fantasy football for years or you just getting started now, you're in the right spot. This is where stats meet strategy, and together we are going to go beyond just the basics to dominate your leagues. So let's start out with those fundamentals. For the newbies, I want you to think of it this way. You're the GM of your favorite NFL team and you get to draft star players like Patrick Mahomes or your favorite 2025 rookie like superstar running back Ashton Genty to the Las Vegas Raiders. And what happens is you score points based on their real life performances. It's a really simple concept with endless possibilities and so much fun, endless fun. But before we dive in, I want to take a moment to thank my family, my friends. I wouldn't be here without your guys' support, man. And launching this channel has really been a dream of mine for a while. And now that it's finally here, I'm so excited to share with you guys. For the new viewers, the OGs tuning into the first episode, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys. And I'm just so excited to build this community. So with that said, let's dive in. So who am I? Well, why would you even listen to this kid? Well, fantasy football has been a huge part of my life ever since I can remember. My dad started up a league for us, and we did our own first joint owner league. And then also growing up, I would see my cousins playing fantasy football during Thanksgiving. Shout out cousin Mike. And also, even before then, I grew up playing on the GameCube, and one of the first games I've got was Madden 06, and that just gradually throughout the years developed, and we would get all the later Maddens and play the fantasy drafts. And in Madden, you pick your team, but it's a randomized fantasy order for which teams get what pick, and you never know when you're going to get that first overall pick. And I remember, I'll never forget that 2014 cover of Adrian Peterson, the 25th edition. Adrian Peterson was such a monster, and getting him first overall was like a dream. I also, funny enough, he was one of my Halloween costumes growing up. But back to fantasy football. In 2011, I started my first ever, or I joined my first ever fantasy league. It was a free league on ESPN. And I remember having to create my own email address for the first time and picking out my team name. I still remember that team name, Mean Machine. Shout out the movie Longest Yard, great movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But yeah, that first draft, of course, my Giants homerism showed out, bleed blue all day. But I had to draft Eli Manning. And along with Eli Manning, I drafted two stud running backs, Matt Forte and LaShawn McCoy that year. They were unbelievable. And additionally, into that, I, on waiver wires, picked up Victor Cruz for that team, and they were all dominant for me that year. And guess what, guys? I ended up winning the entire thing. My first ever year doing a league by myself, I won. And that feeling has hooked me, and I'm still here a decade plus later, chasing those championships and that feeling. Incredibly enough, the Giants, shout out Eli, my GOAT, that 2011 team. Yeah, that year we won the Super Bowl and I won fantasy, and it was just really got me heavily involved into the NFL scene, and ever since then I'm just merged into a fantasy fanatic, to be honest. But yeah, so back in those early days when I'm first getting started, I would just like talk to my friends in camp. A lot of football started, the training camp started up in the summer. And during summer camp, I would talk to my friends and they'd give them fantasy advice when they asked because we all like to talk ball. But yeah, back then I wasn't even watching the YouTube podcasts or diving into the stats much, but I did follow the Roto World app. Shout out to those of you guys who remember the Roto World app. Kept you up to date with the news and injuries and camp stuff. But yeah, and then there was of course, the iconic love-hate article by Matthew Berry that you couldn't miss. And fantasy fans know how big Matthew Berry was back in the day and still is. Yeah, and also there was even the fantasy draft marathon that I would occasionally tune into. But uh, growing up, just staying up to date on player news and trends was such a huge edge, and honestly, it still is. Of course, like just knowing about what's going on will give you an edge. Fantasy football, though, it's so much more than just about drafting your team or hoping that you get lucky in the playoffs or a little luck to just win a championship. Because, as we all know, it takes a lot of skill to play fantasy, but there is a lot of luck involved too, health and whatnot. But it really is truly about understanding the game and learning from those mistakes that you make throughout the years. And most importantly, guys, have fun with this. Fantasy football is supposed to be a lot of fun. And a great way to do that is make sure that you find a great group of league mates to make it enjoyable that you can come back to every year and really grow that rivalry and get like some narratives going and those punishments and just the camaraderie that comes from the league is just as fun as the actual fantasy football. All right, guys, let's really get into it now. Let's talk about one of the most overlooked aspects of fantasy football, I would say, knowing your league settings. It might not sound flashy, but I promise you, understanding your league scoring system and roster construction can give you a real edge. Like, ask yourself these questions. Is my league full PPR, half PPR? Is it standard scoring? How many flex spots do I have? Am I in a super flex league? Do I have points per first down? Does it have unique bonuses for touchdowns? These details all can affect players' rankings, and individually, every single league setting is unique to a player. They all have an effect on the player. So, just a quick tip, like before you even start your draft, just do a quick glance through of your league settings and check out, oh, I'm in a 6 point per touchdown league. So prioritize high volume passing players. Like think of Tom Brady when he was in his prime or Joe Burrow right now. And then like there's leagues like tight end premium where it's more points for tight ends to catch the ball. So think of guys like Travis Kelce or even Jonnu Smith from just this past year in 2024 who are massive values in those formats. Understanding your league settings isn't just about the draft. It's also how you can manage your team more effectively too. Because throughout the whole year, knowing how your league works can give you the confidence to like make a better trade and like this guy is undervalued by your league mates despite not knowing the settings well. So just take all these things into consideration and really understand that knowing your league settings makes a true impact. All right, let's get into a more fun topic now. Let's talk draft day, baby. The most exciting, I would say, and honestly sometimes could be the most stressful part of the entire fantasy season. You got your rankings, you got your favorite analysts' rankings, you got your sleeper picks, and you're hoping that your league mates don't snatch that guy right before you pick him. But when you draft in fantasy, you're building a full roster. It's a quarterback, 2 running backs at least, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex spot, which is a wide receiver, running back, or sometimes even a tight end as well. And then typically in more casual leagues, there will be a kicker and defense. Personally, for me, in my leagues, I've started to remove kickers and defenses entirely for the extra flex, just being able to get more fun out of and more skill out of just picking an actual player on the field as to opposed to a kicker and a defense, which are less fun, I would say. But for fantasy football, you're going to hear surrounding the draft the term ADP, average draft position. Think of it as like a snapshot of the entire draft board. So in this year's go around, the ADP has Jamar Chase as the 101 in fantasy. All that means is he's typically coming off the board at the first overall pick. And then you got to take in mind that there's rookies that are involved in this too. So with training camp news, they can shift more heavily than other players who are in more known roles. And so with the training camp news, is ADP can shift rookies more than veterans. But here's the thing, though, with ADP, it's just not like a one size fits all type of thing, cookie cutter thing. Um, Different platforms like ESPN, NFL, Yahoo, Sleeper, CBS, Underdog, DraftKings, they all have their own ADPs. And that's because like each platform is their own entirely different user bases, entirely different league settings, and then have and then players on the sites have different draft styles on those sites. So whether it's a redraft league, a best ball, or a dynasty, the ADP is going to differ dramatically. And also your league settings will influence the ADP. So sometimes with ADP, you might really like a player who's going below where you think they should in the draft. So his ADP is lower than where you'd value him. The key with that is patience, in my opinion. Instead of reaching early on that player to grab them before their price, you might want to wait and see if they fall to their ADP. It's okay to take them a few spots, but if you're reaching significant spots each pick, you're losing out on that value throughout the draft, and maybe could have gotten that player and another player who was higher on the board that is better than the later players drafted. So by waiting, you have a chance to snag him out around their fair value, and you can keep your draft capital more flexible that way. You can use earlier picks on players you like, and honestly, that'll give you more overall value. So, for example, let's say like your favorite video game is about to drop on sale, like 35% off, and that means you can get 2 video games out of it. You would wait to do that. So with players, wait on that player and see if you can get both guys you like in that range. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a stock market for fantasy players. It's like throughout the summer, things are constantly shifting values with the news cycle, with injury reports, with camp performances, with preseason performances, and even like coaching press conferences can send a player's ADP soaring or plummeting. But why is ADP even important? Really what it does, it helps you identify overvalued and undervalued players to you. And if you do enough practice mocks or these best ball like paid leagues, you can see there's an edge where you see when a guy's falling past where he normally goes. Or if you want to reach on a guy in a certain spot because it fits your roster construction better that way. Either way, use the ADP as a guide, but combine it with your own research, your league settings, and your gut to build the best possible team. And honestly, guys, the reason I'm making this channel is because I've made plenty of mistakes in the draft, some costly ones that maybe have cost me my entire season and made not playoffs entirely. And I think back on those and regret those decisions wholeheartedly. But I've drafted the mistakes I've made. I've drafted the aging veteran too high, who's a star, who had been a star in the past. So, like, for example, I took Julio Jones the year he went to team up with A.J. Brown on the Titans, and I thought that with A.J. Brown on the other side taking coverage and Julio Jones, he was hurt the year before, but he still performed greatly in the games that he played. I thought that he was going to be a good addition for the Titans that year, and honestly, instead, that decision, along with a little bit of poor injury luck, tanked my entire year. And then also another poor draft decision that I've done in the past. I've reached on quarterbacks who didn't offer great rushing upside, thinking that their value was too good because I thought that they had the passing touchdown upside. But spoiler alert, it wasn't. And so I didn't do good that year because I overreached on a quarterback. So an example I can think of off the top of my head is when in 2023 the Chargers drafted Quentin Johnston and I had Justin Herbert projected out. I do my own personal projections, And I started back in around 2021 when I started doing like film studies. But that year I had Justin Herbert as like a top 3 quarterback, to be honest. And Quentin Johnston, their rookie pick that they drafted in the first round, pick 21. I was super high on coming out of TCU. They made it all the way to the national championship game. They got smoked by Georgia, but they weren't making it there without Quentin Johnston and Kendrick Miller, honestly. Those were really good players for that TCU offense, and I was really high on Quentin Johnston. But along with that comes obviously unforeseen circumstances. I stacked Herbert with Mike Williams and reached on Herbert in that draft. Unfortunately, not only did Herbert and Mike Williams get hurt, and Mike Williams got hurt an ACL tear like very early on in the year, but also Keenan Allen, Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler got banged up that year, and Quentin Johnston severely underperformed my expectations for him. So, just all in all, that was a tough pill to swallow, and it's really not a smart idea at all to risk reaching on a quarterback that is reliant on his passing touchdowns and not mobility. In addition to just not outside the draft, I've made mistakes in season as well. Like, I've made the desperate trade chasing a guy who just came off a hot week and I thought like might break out in for later in the season. Or I've tried the strategy where I traded a few guys who had late season buys, but only to have the guys I trade for not get me into the playoffs, and I missed the playoffs entirely. So I just want to help you guys steer clear of some of the mistakes I've made in the past and help you become better fantasy players in the long run. I feel like I've learned a lot I've been playing since almost 2011, my first ever free league. It's 2025 now. It's been a long time of learning and error and trial and error, and now doing my own rankings. I just feel like I have a different edge to bring to the scene of fantasy football, and I just want to help you guys become the best possible version of yourself in this game. So the biggest lesson I've learned about the draft is staying flexible, guys. Drafting is not about some rigid plan. It's about reading your league mates and understanding how to adapt on the fly when things don't necessarily go exactly as you planned. You got to stay flexible, stay water, and stay calm. And here's another big tip. Don't just draft on last year's big names or fantasy stars. Past performance doesn't guarantee future success in this league. Instead, I'd recommend focusing on like players who are trending up and like guys who have like maybe a growing role or like switch teams and you like the improved situation they got, or just some like vacated targets for some player, or they have more untapped potential that you think they have more room to grow. That's where you can find your real edge in fantasy football. And I'm gonna help by diving below the surface with you guys, and we're gonna get there. Now, let's get into a personal favorite of mine, and that's one of my favorite topics, rookies in the league. Why do I love rookies so much? Well, I've been tracking some of these players since high school, and I follow them throughout college, so seeing the progression of that is just like some of the coolest thing to see. Like a guy that you think is a hidden gem that ends up making to the league and hits, it's a great feeling. So I've been absolutely in love with scouting them. I've been tracking players from high school to college, like I said. And this isn't just about the stats. It's literally something I really enjoy. Like I've spent time, like a lot of hours, honestly, watching even high school tape. But I've scouted players like that you would know, guys that just got drafted to the league. Let me think. FCS players like Cam Ward before he even took a snap at Washington State University or Miami when he was back at Incarnate Ward. Go check out his Incarnate Ward FCS championship game footage. Oh my goodness. You see the NFL like raw talent back in FCS competition days. Same thing. Cam Scatabo, Giants draft pick. Shout out Cam, Arizona State legend, and he's a real fan favorite. I knew about him before he took a snap. When he was still at Sacramento State, I was scouting him, and same thing with Bayashal Tutin, draft pick for the Jaguars. Virginia Tech he went to before he even took a snap there. at North Carolina A&T. I was following him there. And I have to take a moment to shout out my guy Rico Knows. He watches like every single FBS college football game. And those are some of the hidden gems that he's talked about on his channel that I have written down in my notes. I don't do that for every one of the players he does, but he really does a lot of good work watching every single film. And he studies the transfer portal. So he's when I was first getting into the college scene, he was a really nice tool to have. And even from there on, yeah, it's such a great game, college. But I've also gone deep into the FBS teams, like both offensive and defensive side of the ball. And I don't forget about the hog molly offensive linemen or the D ends or defensive tackle, nose tackles, everything in between. I watch all of it. But yeah, and then I rank those players before the draft even happens. I like to bet on the NFL draft and find edges that way by knowing the players well. So yeah, I really scout these players and know these players before they even get their first touch in the league. And I want to be educated on these guys so I can help you guys and teach you guys about it. But yeah, so whether you play best ball, a redraft, or a dynasty format, I want to be your guy that you can come to. Maybe along the way I'll find a more niche spot and focus in on one of those areas. But I really love all those things. And like I said earlier, I've been building detailed projections. Currently, I've done 29 of the 32 teams. The only teams I'm currently waiting on are the Indianapolis Colts, the Cleveland Browns, and the New Orleans Saints, just because there's a quarterback battle there. Right now, the Cleveland Browns are in a really interesting time, I would say, with 4 quarterbacks on the roster, drafting 2 rookie quarterbacks in the same draft. And obviously the whole Shador thing was so unique as well. But yeah, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon and Shador Sanders from Colorado, that's who I'm talking about from the Browns. And then Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco will have to battle it out. For the Colts, it's Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson. And then for the Saints, it's Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, and Jake Haener. And while I have an idea of who I think might be the starter, I don't want to build that projection out until I know for sure. So I will have that for you guys down the line. And yeah, with rookies, let me take you back a little bit and why they're so important to fantasy football to me, and just like my overall thoughts on rookies. And I understand you're probably thinking, Scott, what rookie are you targeting this year? Well, stay tuned, and I'll tell you soon. Stick around, boys and girls, and let me teach you a few things. Back in 2015, my first ever home league, my first ever paid league with all my boys, and we still got that league going strong today. Shout out all those guys. I love them. It's a great league, and we remain very active. But in that first ever draft, I actually took 2 rookies, Todd Gurley out of Georgia and Amari Cooper out of Alabama. And they both were pretty solid rookie players, but that, I guess, set the tone for my rookie scouting obsession. And then fast forward to 2018, the Giants took Saquon Barkley 2nd overall, and as a Giants fan, I'm a bit of a homer in the draft, and I do like to take my Giants players. So I drafted him in the 1st round, and he basically carried my team to the playoffs, and we ended up going all the way. Shout out that squad. Names that you might not have heard of in a while. Chris Carson, shout out Marlon Mack, shout out Chris Herndon in the championship game, putting up like 20 points. Yeah, those are some names. What a freaking, winning fantasy football is honestly such an amazing feeling, guys, and that's what I want to bring that feeling to everyone. So what other rookies have I picked? Back in 2021, there was a lot of controversy, a lot of like negative news surrounding Jamar Chase and the football having the stripe versus not having the stripe from college, and him having a few drops in the preseason and at practice. I never worried about any of that noise about Jamar Chase. I've been on Jamar Chase. That obviously that unbelievable season he had with that unbelievable LSU roster that won it all against Clemson. I was absolutely astounded by how good. I thought that he was a Hall of Fame level talent coming out, and Jamar Chase, I had to have him that rookie year, and I didn't care about any of the negative criticism or pessimism towards him. A lot of people were worried, but never here. And he came through in a big way, but we're not going to talk about that that season for my team. Unfortunately, that wasn't a great year. But also, in addition to that, another rookie I just drafted, staying with the Giants theme, of course, I drafted Malik Neighbors, another LSU superstar and Giants superstar now. And he outdid ADP for me as well. Those rookies are typically guys that outperform for me. So they're players I look to buy in drafts often. And then not only that, just the draft. The rookies that don't get drafted on waiver wires, some of them end up becoming like the best pickups for your team. Rookies could be like gold, and examples of guys like Puka Nacua, Bucky Irving, and Amon-Ra St. Brown over the last few years have been all turned into league-winning players for you guys. And if you had a strong roster and you added those guys mid-year or early on, they really could have put your team over the top. So yeah, now finally, who am I interested in as a rookie this year that I'm targeting in a lot of my drafts? I've been doing quite a few best balls throughout the summer, and a guy I'm higher on than consensus and zeroing in on today is Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. Now, Emeka Egbuka, he's a player I've been watching since high school. He's one of those guys that I've known a while. He was a top 10 recruit coming out, and he was actually the number 1 wide receiver prospect in his high school class, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. When you watch Emeka Egbuka in high school, excuse me, he definitely seemed more mature, more polished, more fluid, stronger than the rest. His movement skills, his strength at the catch point, his strength like on the field showed drastically compared to his other peers. And that class that he's in a part of has no slouches. Like, he's not the best now in the class. There's guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. that passed him by in college, but coming out of high school, he deserved that number 1 ranking. And he ended up getting drafted number 19 to the Buccaneers, rightfully so. Some thought that maybe of a surprising pick that he went to the Buccaneers because they had 2 good wide receivers, but they are both of their star guys are getting a little bit older, and I think it was still a great pick. But yeah, let's dive into Emeka a little bit. He didn't play much his freshman year, but then he ended up getting a lot of playing time as a sophomore, and he really broke out onto the scene. And he stayed till his senior year. He's actually the all-time leading receptions leader for Ohio State, crazy enough. I mean, there's so many great Ohio State receivers, but he did stay a few extra years, so it's like take it with a grain of salt, because he stayed a lot of extra years and a lot of the Ohio State best guys leave early. But his college numbers are extremely impressive. He averaged an impressive 3.1 yards per route run and also commanded a 22% target share. So where is he being drafted right now? Right now, I checked across most platforms. He's being drafted in the ADP of the wide receiver 50 or so range. And I'm just convinced he's got top 40 upside, especially in this Buccaneers offense. Just think about it. Last year with Chris Godwin, he was the wide receiver 1 through 7 weeks, and he's coming off an ankle injury that took him out the rest of the season. Now, Mike Evans is still Mike Evans, but he's getting up there in age. And interestingly enough, if you look into the numbers, the splits with and without Chris Godwin, Mike Evans with Chris Godwin on the field was about 40 yards less per game. So if either of those guys regress or get injured, Emeka Egbuka could absolutely feast and become a top 15 option weekly in fantasy. I know they have a younger guy who broke out a little bit last year in Jalen McMillan, but I'm not worried about him either. And especially with the rookies, guys, everything is about patience and timing with them. They're new. They got to adjust to the college game, and you just don't want to get rid of them too early or push them off too early. So hold on, especially with the rookie running backs. I really think it's really important to hang on to the rookie running backs, because if they're the starter does ever get injured or they just come on along the end of the year, you really don't need to be that talented when it comes to the running back position. It's more about the volume that you get and the snap counts that you get. So if one person goes down, you have to take on a significant portion of the that backup has to take on a significant portion of the snaps and attempts. So they instantly become a value. And yeah, just keep a close eye on breakout candidates on the waiver for rookies. That rookies will pay huge dividends. So how do we build that winning team? Well, what I'm doing is I've been crunching projections for every NFL relevant fantasy player in the league. So far, 29 of the 32 teams, like I mentioned previously. And I'll be sharing throughout the summer with you guys my sleepers, my overhyped players, busts, and guys with tough schedules, guys with easier playoff schedules, tough opening schedules, and help you avoid making any mistakes. So this season, like I said, I want to cover the best ball, redraft, and dynasty formats, giving you my thoughts on each and breaking down some of my strategies behind those. Hopefully on this channel, we can expect me to get into some film dives and some stat breakdowns where we dig deep in the stats and get a little dirty in the sheets. Whether it's a rookies route running that we're watching, or we're going into a vet's like player usage and his target shares, whatever it is, guys, we're going to go below the surface together. And with your fantasy team, guys, we want to build you a team that can win week after week. And that we want that team to be peaking in the playoffs, guys. We don't want to build those teams that go 12 wins and lose in the first round of the playoffs. It's going to be teams that are built for the second half of the year and ready to compete in the playoffs. But before we go, last thing I kind of want to go over with you guys, especially some of my more veteran fantasy players in the space. If you stuck around to this late in the video, I really appreciate you guys. I want to gear this section a little bit more to you guys, but the casuals out there, this is just as important to pay attention to. So some key stats and terms that I think every fantasy player needs to know, like in this like modern day and age of fantasy football: yards per route run, targets per route run, target share, red zone usage, and snap counts. And even I'd like to throw in there touchdown rate, which is for quarterbacks, their passing attempts divided by their touchdowns thrown. So these numbers really help reveal like the true picture around a player's role and value in their offense. So with target share, it helps you understand like targets are earned. It's especially with wide receivers, very hard to get on the field. And if you're not doing well, like those targets are, those wide receivers earn their production. They have to get thrown the ball, and even when they get open, they might not get thrown the ball. Same thing with red zone. That's where all the valuable points in fantasy are scored. Touchdowns are the most valuable points, and you want guys that perform well in that area of the field. And then touchdown rate, it's just, especially with quarterbacks who've been in the year, it's kind of more easier to identify how many touchdowns the quarterback is going to score on average. And you understand that around 7% touchdown rate is like phenomenal. Like 7.5 is like outlier type projections. And like we got guys like Lamar Jackson and Brock Purdy in the last few years who are hitting 7+ pretty consistently. But like the league average is still around like 4.5 to like 5%. 5% is even a little high. So just that really helps knowing like the distribution to the receivers as well. Some more commonly talked about and known stats are like yards per carry, completion percentage, and total touchdowns, which all can be useful. Like no stat is bad, but like some are worse. Like if you're just using it alone. But those three stats specifically, I would say, are more helpful with identifying busts or players likely to struggle if they have lower numbers or lower efficiency, like yards per carry is like sub 4 or something like that. But in my experience, they're less reliable for helping you identify like those true breakouts or like guys with actual hidden upside. That's like where the yards per route run and targets per route run can really come into effect. And then also with fantasy football strategy, it's so much strategy, obviously, and it's a game and a skill. Knowing how to build your lineup a little bit, you can draft like drafting a guy who's going to average 12 to 15 points might not sound so flashy, but those points throughout the season, especially like best ball formats, they add up throughout the season and they're consistent for you, not going to cost you weeks. But at the same time, I'm not saying at all to ignore the high upside players, because those are the ones who really give you the edge and win you those weeks and give you those crazy comebacks or crazy blowouts. And then lastly, if you guys if you forget everything from this episode, I want you to come away remembering one thing, and that's what I'm about to say here. So tune in, put down whatever you're doing and actually focus up. The strategy that gives you a huge edge in any format, stacking your lineup. What that means is, say you draft Devontae Smith, that means I want you to pair him up with a guy like Jalen Hurts. And stacking comes in many different forms. Obviously, quarterback and wide receiver, like I just mentioned, but you could do quarterback and tight end, where you get like a Josh Allen and a Dalton Kincaid, or running back and wide receiver from the same team that's a more potent offense, like Jahmyr Gibbs and Jamison Williams, or like any tight end wide receiver, tight end running back. I want you guys to take advantage of all those, especially in best ball. Correlation is critical in best ball. Make sure you're paying attention to the playoff weeks as well in best ball. If you do advance to the playoffs, you want to have correlated matchups. So in the playoffs, you can incorporate a strategy called bringbacks, which is an example. The Vikings this year played the Lions in week 17. So say you draft in your league Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jared Goff. You might want to pair him up with a Jordan Mason to add correlation to your matchup for that week 17 matchup. And maybe you're really spicy and you want to take a Ty Felton rookie who someone might not draft at all in a best ball format, which can go 18 to 20 rounds. These are some like smart, like more advanced moves that you can really find edge to set your team apart and find those plus expected value. You want to be adding those points and finding those hidden strategies to really separate yourself in like unique scoring contests like Best Ball Mania, where there's huge prize pools. These are like the strategies that I want to help you guys implement into your game and really take you apart from other players. Remember, building a winning team isn't just about the talent that you draft. It's about really understanding context, understanding strategies, thinking about what kind of builds you want to make. So say you take a veteran early and you want to get some youth later and you draft a rookie late, or say you drafted a couple running backs early, so you smash 5 straight receivers in the middle rounds. Whatever the strategy is, I like just stay balanced with it and stay multiple steps ahead. Think ahead. That's what Below the Surface is going to be about, guys. Thinking deep. Well, what's next? So that basically wraps up episode 1 today of Below the Surface. Today we dove into the fundamentals of fantasy. We learned some of the key terms and remember to master our draft settings. And I even shared a rookie gem that I'm super excited about this season. So I really hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did enjoy this episode, please do me a favor, guys. Hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. Drop a like. Drop a comment below on your favorite player or your favorite rookie. Anything. I'd like to hear from my community. Don't forget, guys, you can follow me on socials on Twitter. I'm at Scott_Levine11. And I've been posting a few threads there, and I'll be more active as I picked up my content. And we're also going to be rolling out some cut-ups for socials. So if you want to stay connected with me on socials, follow me on TikTok, Below the Surface FF, Fantasy Football. You can follow me there on TikTok or Instagram, or Facebook, I guess. And then if you're listening in on Spotify, shout out to you guys there. Thank you so much for tuning in. For a sneak preview for our next episode, we'll take things up a notch. I'll break down some advanced draft strategies, maybe talk some value picks, tell you how to take some risks, and how to recover if you get sniped or things don't go exactly how you planned coming in. But thanks so much again for tuning in, guys, and let's make this season a truly great one. Together, we're going to go below the surface and win you your league. Catch you next time, guys. Peace.
It's game time. We diving deep. From the stairs to the play. No time for sleep. Below the surface, we're working, we set the scene. Who's your host? Scott Levine. Below the surface, we break it down with a master plan. But stats meet strategy, that's where I stand. Cold with the numbers, sharp and clean, hit like a blitz. Show you what it is, below the surface.